Hey minions, welcome to Crank It Up. I'm Jim Price, and on this episode of Action Awareness, we're going to talk about one of the most insane cards in the game, Signs in the Stars of the Ancient Incas. I'm just going to read off the card's text verbatim, because nearly every word matters, and I don't want to get this wrong. Play on a base. Ongoing. Turn the top card of the base deck face up. While the top base card is face up, this base also has its abilities. At the start of each player's turn, they may turn the top base card down until the end of the turn. Talent. Place the top card of the base deck on the bottom of the deck. And if that weren't long enough, there is an important clarification. If the top base card changes because of this card's controller using its talent, or another card's ability, or another base scoring, the previous top base's card ability stops being applied, but any effects that have already happened, i.e. 2 power until the end of the turn, are not undone. The new top base card is face up if the previous card was. The last clause is particularly important because what it is saying is if the previous card was turned face down, then the new card is also face down. I won't lie, that's a lot of text. At its core, Signs in the Stars is trying to merge base abilities and create fun combinations. But there are problems with this, and if you find the history of card development interesting, I feel like I could write a book on this card. But I can only cover so much in one video. I wasn't even sure of my final thoughts on the card until I started working on the video because there is simply so much to consider. And the TLDW is that I think this is a card with interesting potential that we will end up regretting because it is also prone to chaos and being overpowered. Signs in the Stars is a play on base action, which is no surprise for the ancient Incas. But it does not trigger any benefit or really care to be on the same base as their other actions. In fact, I would even make the argument that it doesn't help them directly, it's just incredibly thematic and new. Let's start with the first part, turning the card face up and merging the abilities. Base abilities are powerful and keep the game interesting. There are 149 bases with Culture Shock and Penguins, and that makes over 11,000 possible base combinations. But some of them actually break the game in either OP fashion or literal fashion. For example, combining Birthday Party with Ice Castle, depending on the minions already out, can lock up the game entirely. To combat this, each player has the choice to deactivate the merge for the duration of their turn, making that choice in Phase 1. But this is problematic, because it means that the merge cannot be deactivated on the turn it was played. It can also have implications in Phase 3, but you have to decide in Phase 1. And if the choice is uninspired, the controller can change the top base card and introduce a new merge, which may also be broken, but you've already used the talent, so you are stuck with it. Make no mistake, Signs in the Stars can be a lot of fun, but it could also be a nightmare, and you have no idea what you are getting until you play it, because the Incas have no other base manipulation and few factions actually do. Now, if you follow the channel, you know that I do not like the base rule because it makes the deck too large. I definitely hate including all the bases, as that is even larger. But there is a popular variant that uses only the bases of the factions themselves, and I like that even less, and it's worsened by Signs in the Stars. In a 2-player game, you'd use 8 bases, and 3 are already in play. That means you have a 20% chance of knowing what base will come out, and it's not hard to use the talent to hunt for the specific combination you are waiting for, one that you could absolutely predict. That doesn't seem right to me. It also makes the game way too predictable, and half the fun is taking a chance that the next base will be better. In fact, that is the only aspect of the card I like. With Signs in the Stars, I have strongly mixed feelings. I like the idea of nuanced base abilities, but the sheer scope is overwhelming. Too many bases and it's completely random. Too few bases and it's deterministic and possibly overpowered. I think that this further illustrates the need for a base drafting variant, because it allows you to give specific direction to Signs in the Stars, rather than just being limited by the factions you are playing. But even this can be problematic, because it means that you can help ensure the combos that are broken, like combining the Homeworld and Rhodes Plaza Mall, or Rhodes Plaza Mall and Factory 436-1337, or Workshop in Tokyo, or Jungle Oasis and any number of other abilities. There's plenty of combinations. There's a time for zaniness, but Signs in the Stars knows how to bring it out early and often, and I think your experience with the card will be shaped by the random combinations that you experience. There are some notable consequences to this. First, Idaho Smith loves this because you actually get to see what base you are bringing into play, and that information can be crucial as it allows you to be more efficient with your card plays. The Glory Hounds can help set up or change the base that Signs in the Stars uses. Another way to manipulate the deck is with Moon 03, as it gives you another means to look at the base deck and know what is coming or change the ability. Out of all the bases to have on top, Unicrave is by far the most confusing. That is because Unicrave gives its special ability to the base that is scoring, and when that base scores and gets replaced, it gets replaced by Unicrave, which will do the same thing, and be replaced by a third base, which may have further implications because of Signs in the Stars. Since these are all technically new bases, an ability that triggers before a base could trigger multiple times. This could mean multiple power boosts, multiple destructions, multiple duels, any number of time-consuming and chaotic events. And it's worth noting that the third base in that case could not actually be deactivated because it can only be deactivated in Phase 1. Sometimes abilities will be infuriating rather than confusing. For example, Island Chain replaces itself with two bases, growing the base pool by 1. If this is the top base, then Island Chain and its relatively low breakpoint will come into play with another base, offering a second chance to add yet another base. This doesn't do anything but take up table space and increase my blood pressure, but it is possible. I've also had Tropical Paradise pop up unexpectedly, functioning like a really cheap overgrowth. You can argue that there are more innocuous combinations than problematic ones, and I accept that. But my biggest concern with Signs in the Stars is that it can force one base to be overly relevant in a game, because that ability will appear twice. Bases can have an extreme impact on the game already, and to make one base have even more of an impact can mean the actual factions do not matter as much. This is particularly problematic with a VP scoring base or a base that provides extra plays. But this card does have its opportunities. Though this card doesn't help the Incas directly, combining their abilities does make for a good effect because it grants them cards and makes the base easier to break. It will take luck or time for this to happen, if at all. For this reason, School of Wizardry suddenly seems relevant, as it not only affects the next base you see, but gives you two choices as the top card. Signs in the Stars creates a merging of two bases, but only changes one half of the equation. Sometimes it's better to change the other half, and once again, our good friend Cab Over Pete really shines. This allows you to have control over both aspects of the merge, and you can use the information to create the best pairing on the board. One last note, this does not add monsters, as monsters are not part of a base's ability. This is important, as Signs in the Stars could be used to flood a base with monsters by continually turning over a new card. But if the base's innate ability does actually add monsters, that itself is okay. Ultimately, I worry that this will be a card Smash Up comes to regret, as every new base in the game has to be analyzed for compatibility with this card. It can be fun, but mean players, read my friends, can abuse this card and make it intolerable. I've seen it happen. Yes, you can turn the ability off, but with some combinations the base may not make it back to you. Still, I will admit to occasionally having fun with a Hail Mary play, hoping for a base that I can use to my advantage. There simply was no way to word the card appropriately so that all the quirks were ironed out. Not every base will be able to have its ability applied, but given the sheer number of combinations, perhaps it's for the best anyway. What do you think of Signs in the Stars? And what two bases would you like to see combined? Let me know in the comments. That's it for this week. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe. Let's shut it down.